You can get any woman you want as long as you follow these 3 steps. There are 3 things that your parents probably lied to you about. The only way to survive an alligator attack is by knowing this. If you analyze the hottest girls on the planet, they're all dating guys who do this one thing, where a lady's gonna dance at you and wave eucalyptus oil at you. She's gonna hit you with a leaf. She's gonna hit you with a leaf and a tuning fork and go boo, and like she's gonna realign you.
That sounds magical. I like that.
It's about the intention and the premise. Charity is not something that should be earned. Charity is something that should be given to those who are in need, regardless of their circumstances and regardless of whether or not they help you by giving you $1 because you forgot your wallet at home.
That's why you're like the Batman of this shit. Like,
if you live a life where you allow small lies because they feel good, then you are doomed to live a life where you are going to get scammed.
Yo, we're back again with another Creative Freedom Universe podcast. What's up, y'all?
What's up? Nice to be back. You guys have improved your situation. The lighting is better. I feel like I'm in a professional environment now.
I appreciate that.
Excellent.
You like the set? We have a set now.
I do. I like the set. I like the drinks. This is an excellent, comfortable thing.
Appreciate that. Part of what makes this possible is the crew, you know? We got our crew Goof Off Collaborative in the building. Welcome back, Brad.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
It's been 7 months since you were last on this podcast.
Wow, how times have changed in the last 7 months.
Yeah, man. Your YouTube channel's grown over 1 million.
Yeah.
And your TikTok about another 1 million as well.
Wow, yeah. Times have definitely changed, and I'm really loving doing podcasts because I can gain so much more content by just hanging out and talking for an hour than like actually filming and editing and scripting, scheduling people. This is very efficient. I've started to understand why these guys do it, because you can just churn out so much content at one time. Check it out. Right before the show, we discussed doing a bunch of like arbitrary hooks. And we all know that on short form content, people only really care about the hooks. So if you run into trouble editing or something, I'm going to give you a couple hooks right now. So you ready? And I'm going to say the hook and you give me a reaction. All right. You can get any woman you want as long as you follow these 3 steps. I made $1 million a year without going to college. Here's how I did it. There are 3 things that your parents probably lied to you about. What's another, like, give me a subject. Oh, here we go. Survival. The only way to survive an alligator attack is by knowing this.
Give me one about like, here are some tips to get women. Like,
some tips to get women. Okay. If you analyze the hottest girls on the planet, they're all dating guys who do this one thing.
That was good. That was good.
So how about this? This one's even more specific. All Instagram models with over 1 million followers date the same kind of man. Can you guess who that is? I actually think my first one was better. Yeah. I know, whatever. In the editing booth, you can figure this out. But if any of what I think would be really funny is if you take any one of these taglines and you add them to an irrelevant part of the conversation. So for instance, like, here's how to get in a woman you want. And then immediately the part of the conversation is you and I talking about like watches or about content or about like Vegas, like just complete shift in structure to test how important the hook is to the content, and I think it's very important.
It's an underlooked thing on whether it's like dropping an album and you're a musical artist or a podcast and you gotta drop some reels, like promotion. You need
like sensationalist. You need sensationalist stuff. But one thing I heard, I don't know if it's true, is that the best way to get podcast clips is to have one person who like doesn't know anything about anything constantly say like weird stuff. So you would say so I'd say like, I went down to Poland last week. And I'm like, Poland, it's in Europe. It's right by Germany. You don't know anything about Poland? You're like, no, is that Germany? No, Poland, they make sausage. They have lots of cool stuff. Having like one member of the podcast be a total idiot apparently is a huge sell.
That's not a bad idea. I think even like the Theo Von kind of model of it, where if you just say outrageous ass shit under the guise of, is this a character or is that just how he is when he's off camera? I don't know, but it's shocking. It's borderline racist sometimes, but it's funny.
It gets
funny
the clicks
sometimes too.
Right, cool. As we go through them, if we think of something horrifically offensive to say, we should do it.
Oh, there'll be a couple things I think. No, I'm just kidding.
Talk to me. It's been 7 months. Things have gone well since then.
I mean, I feel honored that you'd come back on the show.
I feel honored that you helped me out whenever I need to film in Iowa.
Well, that helps too. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Man, we're not just filming in Iowa now. We're about to film somewhere else, too.
Yeah, we're about to go to Las Vegas.
You're about to give me the Scumbag tour of Vegas.
Yes.
That's right.
We're going with 12 people to Vegas. Vegas is the ultimate party destination, and a lot of people do it wrong. They stick to the strip. They just go to the casinos and the local bars, and they never get off strip, and they're screwing it up. There's so many cool things in Vegas. There are shows, there are restaurants that are all way cheaper than the strip and way better and way more accommodating for bigger groups. Whenever somebody comes back from Vegas and says they had a bad time, I feel personally offended. And I always ask, did you take my suggestions? And they never took my suggestions. They always spent a god-awful amount of money on bottle service. They didn't see any shows. They just ended up getting drunk on the street and gambling. And that is not the most fun you can have in Vegas. You're going to have a much better time. You're going to go to a sauna where a lady's gonna dance at you and wave eucalyptus oil at you. She's gonna hit you with a leaf. She's gonna hit you with a leaf and a tuning fork and go boo, and like she's gonna realign you.
That sounds magical. I like that.
Okay. Oh, it's good. It's magical, but it's expensive. You're not.
What else are we doing? Omega Mart?
So yeah, we're gonna be going to Omega Mart in Vegas. Omega Mart is like a super trippy art museum. That's the best way I could describe it, where you are in a really insane world that has a story. That like lots of clues are on the wall and on props and on things you can like uncover, and you discover the story of this grocery store that's essentially controlled by a corporation that's milking these, psychedelic resources out of it, and you get to sort of experience that by wandering through it. I think Meow Wolf in general is representative of the future of art museums. The art museums of old where you just look at paintings, I mean, they're basically going to be a dying breed because now, everyone's got cameras. Everyone's got the need to take selfies all the time. They want to be a part of the experience. They don't want to just look at it and admire it. Things like Omega Mart, like Team Labs Planets in Japan, they're just popping up all over the place, and they're churning out money.
It's almost like a Disney in that way or something, of when you make it an experience up to the smells, even when you walk in a room somewhere. That's powerful, like that sort of implementation of design there.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, these new style art museums are like theme parks. They're beautifully immersive. They don't necessarily have rides, but they definitely put you in like a new environment.
And there's more than one Omega Mart, someone told me?
Yeah, I think there's 4 Omega Marts. There's one in Albuquerque, Denver, Las Vegas. Oh, I think that's it. Maybe there's only 3. I don't know.
Only thing I had known about it prior, I think it was just through, like, maybe you posted about it once upon a time when you went.
Yeah.
I just knew something about, like, you open up, like, you're like in a gas station type vibe, and you open up the freezer type door, and then it's much more.
You open up a freezer and then you go into an entire psychedelic world.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I really like it.
But the fact that there's a story there too now that I didn't know.
You'll see.
That's that much cooler. It's like you're inside a video game type shit.
Yeah, you'll see. I think you'll love it.
Speaking of being in a video game, you were at Super Mario World with Blake. How do you say his last name? Rosier?
Rosier? Yeah.
He's cool.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I've seen some of his content. It's made me laugh.
I try to hang out with really funny people in LA. LA is a generally horrible city to live in, but the people there are really, really cool. It's super expensive, but the reason it's expensive is because a lot of really damn talented creatives live there. And that's basically the only reason my wife and I spend as much time in LA as we do. Like, I don't really love how a lot of influencers label LA as like a really crummy, superficial city where like a girl will come on and say like, because I went to this party and they only cared about how many followers I have. And I'm like, you knew that when you went to the party. Like, the parties that give a shit about that, first off, are few and far between. And secondly, you know that that's the kind of party you're going to when you get the invite. You know what I mean? If it's run by like one of these like top like influencer characters, you are not going to socialize. You are a prop in one of their little prank videos that they're going to do. And for you to be shocked that they're like superficial there is really, it's on you. Because we don't do that at my parties.
Staying on the subject of that video though, that was cool, man. Super Mario World, like
Super Mario World is banging, but we went.
It sounds lit.
The lines are crazy. Like,
are they?
It's incredibly immersive. It's really beautiful. They put in so many small touches that would like make Mario fans happy. But I went when it was kind of crowded, and I didn't even get to go on the Bowser ride because the line was just psychotic.
I saw you did a couple videos with Blake, man. That's super cool. Because I came across his content like just randomly through the algorithm, you know how the algorithm do.
Yeah, I do.
But just randomly, I just popped up, but I had known you at the time. But then the fact that you just ended up working with him, you know, I didn't know that was gonna happen. I was like, whoa, like.
Well, the Los Angeles comedy scene on like TikTok and Shorts isn't really all that big. Like a lot of the creators that hover at my same wavelength, like we've bumped into or interacted with each other at parties and at like collab dates, like to the point where I feel like I know like a lot of them at this point.
Yeah.
And we're all very open to working together and hanging out. And so, you know, every week I've got like a new collab with somebody else. So, you know, if you've got like if you're out in LA and you're working in comedy and you're doing TikToks and you're doing well, like I think it's pretty easy to contact other people who are like-minded and become friends. Yeah, and
It's a different culture.
Well, also, I mean, since the weather's always generally good, the lighting's always generally good, so it's always easy to work. You know what I mean? The weather's always better, beautiful and like tons of great restaurants.
Better
I would say, I will say that like in general, like there are a lot of social pressures in Los Angeles. I do think that a lot of girls who are seeking modeling do end up moving there, and they find themselves in competition with other women seeking modeling. And so they sort of like, you know, feed off each other. And I do believe that, you know, on the whole, like the modeling industry in LA is like pretty good. So yeah, there are a lot of attractive girls in Los Angeles. I met my wife in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah?
You know, that's where we met.
You sort of met her online too, though.
I met her online, but she was in Los Angeles.
Right.
And the weekend that I met my wife, I had other dates with other girls who were extremely pretty, and all of them were super cool. One of the girls who I met from OkCupid the same weekend I met my wife became the officiant at our wedding. So like she was like a super cool girl. Like I loved all the people I met in LA. And I get sad when people trash talk it as like an influencer cesspool, because that's like just such a small fraction of the creators who live there.
I mean, I'm sure the LA traffic isn't anything to die for.
Oh, it's horrible.
Right. And like,
oh, God.
I mean, I'll probably like ride a bike around if I was there.
No, you wouldn't. You would not ride a bike.
That either?
No, LA is not a bikeable city.
Shit.
It is not a walkable city. It is you get a car or an Uber and that's it. Yeah, it's not convenient. Very inconvenient.
That sounds expensive as fuck.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time. I spend a lot more money on gas than I did.
Wow.
Yeah, not fun. But again, you pay. Unfortunately, that's the price. That's like the price of entry for this stupid showbiz stuff. Is the opportunities that have been afforded to me since going to LA more have been monumental, and like the connections I've made and the friends I've made have been awesome. And so like. I like Iowa a lot, but it took me years just to amass a crew of like 8 people who I could hang out with regularly. And
not only we get harassed at the mall damn near when we're trying to make the content, like security guards, all that shit.
But I don't really, in Iowa, like apart from our crew, I don't meet anybody new who's still into this stuff. You know, what's fun about LA is I don't need to talk anybody into helping me out with like acting. You know, I'm like, can you help?
Everyone's already down.
Yeah, they already want to do it. Like it's already, when I meet new friends, and I invite them to things and we start to do a TikTok, or I'm like, oh, let's run a scene. They're assuming we're going to run a scene. I don't run into any situations with like my old social group where they're like, oh, well, I don't really want to film right now, because they're not in that scene. They don't make money off it. They don't care. Like, and that's fine. It's fine not to care about social media. But since moving to LA, so many people who are willing to help out anytime that it's just crazy.
Are there any like similarities between that and Vegas as a creative like yourself?
Well,
do you see any?
Well, the thing is with Vegas is there just aren't as many creators there. Like I just, you know, and I reach out to a lot of people. I collab with a lot of people. I consider myself very friendly. In Vegas, I've reached out to like a couple of creators, but they're not like big comedy folks. You know what I mean? Like there's a guy named Charlie Classic who's really cool. He does stories, vlogs. He's like a funny guy. Apart from him, Jeff Cyrus and Sabrina Banks, the only other Vegas people I know are like travel vloggers. And they don't necessarily want to be actors. They don't necessarily want to do like comedy, which is fine, because whenever I invite anybody out, it's assumed that we're going to be doing like a bit.
Vegas with the Merle Hay Mall fan club.
Yeah, Vegas is going to go crazy.
That's going to be dope. You've hyped it up. You know.
I can't wait to bring my
Iowan friends.
I mean, the thing is, I would invite you guys out to LA, but LA is a shitty tourist city.
Yeah.
LA as a tourist is not good. Hollywood Boulevard is trash. It's boring. You're going to spend half the time in the car sitting in traffic. Yeah, there are cool restaurants and like a few sites, but they cannot compare to the excessive pumping of serotonin that Vegas can provide per minute. My friends and I, we have a system of measurement called FPUs. FPU stands for fun per unit. Did we discuss this before? This is like a very big running inside gag amongst like my friend group and I, but FPU stands for fun per unit time. If you're going to do a thing, you have to measure how much fun you're having. So let's say, here's a good story that illustrates FPUs in a nutshell. I went to a very popular barbecue place in Austin and I waited in a 3-hour line, right? 3 hours. And my friend agreed to meet me. She was super late. By the time I was in front, she just showed up. She waited 15 minutes and we had the barbecue. She asked me how it was. I was like, it's fine. She's like, this is the best barbecue I've ever had in my life. She got more FPUs than me because she was waiting for a lower amount of time. Waiting in line is a low FPU or a negative FPU experience. You could be eating the best baby back ribs of your life, but if you waited 4 hours for it in the sun, you can only enjoy it so much. Whereas if you receive it immediately, you are going to enjoy it substantially more than somebody who had to endure hardship. Similar in Vegas, things like waiting in traffic is like a low FPU experience. Waiting for an Uber, getting stuck in a crowd, eating a meal you don't like. Those things happen way more often in other cities, whereas Vegas, everything's so close. You get from bar to restaurant to bar to show to spa to whatever, and these things happen so quick, you don't really have any downtime. And I think that's one of the reasons why like fun per unit time is a measurement of enjoyment. And so like we have we have lots of arbitrary rules of FPUs. Like for instance, if you're having a great time and you see someone else is having a bad time, you're having a better time because you're also in competition with other people who are also in competition for FPUs. So if you're going to like a hot bar or club and you get through the line for some reason and you watch all the other sad suckers in the line, well, your FPUs have been increased because you get to watch other people become sad. Like FPUs is a very selfish thing, but yeah, if I ever bring that up again, that's what FPUs are. And we'll talk about that in Vegas.
I like that. Would you say like more people would live in an LA, visit a Vegas? Like they're not going to live in Vegas, but they're going to live in LA.
Again, I am very biased at this. If it weren't for the friends I had in LA, I would definitely live in Las Vegas. Okay. Like the only reason I stay in Los Angeles is because I really like the people I know there.
Yeah.
I really like my band. I really like hanging out with Stanzi Potenza. I love the people I know there, and that's final.
Yeah.
If I could have the same group of friends or collaborators in Vegas, I would 100% choose Vegas. At least in most spots, the traffic's better. I love the Strip. I don't know. People are probably going to rage me in the comments. They're going to be like, screw you. You don't know what you're talking about. Maybe I don't. But I just think LA is an extremely frustrating, expensive place to live.
Yeah.
But the reason it's expensive is because it's desirable. Yeah. And the reason why the traffic's crazy is because every jackass wants to live there because the weather is amazing. That's LA. Hooray. Stoke some city tensions. Here's why Scumbag Dad thinks LA is the best city in the world. Here, let's make it easy. Here's why I think LA is the best city in the world and the worst city in the world.
Have you been to Japan?
Yeah, I know.
So is
Tokyo's
that like
amazing.
kind of like Vegas in terms of efficiency in?
I would say
because
Tokyo,
of technology.
I would say the food in Tokyo goes extremely hard. I would say it's actually quite reasonably priced. The hotel rooms are very small, but everything else is super duper amazing. Very clean, efficient. The museums are amazing. Yeah. Team Labs Planets is like a crazy cool tourist attraction. That's just like a wild, like sensory, immersive art museum. Yeah, I mean, Japan's got like beautiful nature sites. I guess if I had to compare two cities, like if I only had 2 days in any city, I mean, to be honest, I would probably choose Tokyo.
I was gonna say, if Tokyo's not better than Vegas, like
it's just it's a very different tourist experience. The thing is, if I'm traveling with a group, if I'm traveling with a crew, in my opinion, Vegas is better. Like Tokyo, I go with my wife to like really cool restaurants and really cool spots and museums, and it's like more of a, I guess more of a serene romantic experience, to be honest, for her and I. But when I want to rage with people, like I think Vegas is way better. The thing about LA is it's 4-hour drive from Vegas, so I don't need to book a flight, so that's fun.
Are there any particular Vegas stories that stand out? Or I assume since your friend group's in LA, that there might be some LA stories that stand out.
Here's the problem with asking me about a Vegas story that stands out is because when I go to party in Vegas, I'm extremely responsible. Yeah. And like we don't make mistakes. Like nobody ever like wanders off and accidentally kills a hooker, like
a gentleman never tells though, right?
Yeah, but I mean what happens in Vegas would stay in Vegas.
Well, there you go.
But that being said, like we don't get into any trouble. Like everyone, somebody will get sick from drinking too much or something like that. But, all of our Vegas stories are like fairly humble. I mean, yeah, we just film content, go to cool museums, eat amazing food. We don't get into trouble. I'm in my 40s. I've got a son. The time for me to be like an absolute lunatic is over. I've got stuff to die for, essentially, or stuff. I've got stuff to die. I've got stuff to live for now. If I make a mistake, I may never see my kid again. If I get caught with an illegal substance, or I get into a car accident and kill somebody, like I'm gonna ruin my ability to hang out with my family. So I will say having a family does make me like a ton more responsible.
How old's Zev right now?
Zev is a year and a half. He's a cool
year
baby.
and a half already?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
He's a cool baby. I like that kid.
Yeah. You already know he's gonna take over the world someday.
I hope so. I hope I give him the tools necessary to do it because, I just love him so much. He's so like fun to hang out with. I miss him. I know it's like goofy because he's just a baby. It's not like we have deep conversations, but I read to him and
You'd be a great dad.
He dances, like he asks to dance and then we turn on music and then he dances. It's fucking great.
You currently have multiple residences. Obviously one's in LA. You still got one in Iowa though. So that's still home base in some respects.
I live in Iowa and LA.
You show days. Iowa love and we appreciate that.
Yeah, I sure do.
Because like seriously, man, like you were talking about the culture in LA, obviously like creators, it's way more easy to collab, but in Iowa, where I'm at,
well, in Iowa,
it's harder, and so I extra appreciate you being able to do so.
Yeah, I've got a lot of resources in Iowa. I mean, if we ended up moving back, I wouldn't be really all that sad about it because I could essentially just retire because it's so much less expensive than Los Angeles. Cost of living here
raising a family is probably like easier in Iowa.
Cost of living here is about a third of what it is in Los Angeles.
Education, I don't know what the difference is there and here, but education's pretty... it's decent here.
I mean, education in the U.S. in general is kind of garbage anyways. Well, we thought about bringing our son to Korea, actually, for a couple of years.
That's not a bad idea, like school somewhere else, not America.
My wife pointed out that when she was raised in Korea, she got very bad grades in math. And then when she came to the U.S., all of a sudden she got all A's. And Korea was so much more challenging than the curriculum in the States. So for a couple of years, she felt really smart because she was so much more advanced than the other kids. Whereas she was kind of a failure in Korea.
And of course, I think we are going to see that eventually play out of like, just education is that much more efficient, I guess you could call it, in other countries to where, these kids are going to grow up to be smarter than a lot of Americans are, it feels like.
They're definitely getting an edge in some fields, for sure.
I mean, it's all about applied knowledge, I guess. It's not just about what you learn, but it's gonna eventually play out. Like we gotta somehow make our education better. You're known for these satire trends, like these social media trends. You parody them. Obviously, there's more to you than that. Like you got music, you got other things going on. So how's the music going?
It's going good. The Bad Circus is about to release our first EP. We have a number of music videos and one with a movie star. So we're gonna see how it works out.
I've known you for about a year now.
Oh, has it been that long?
It's been about a year.
Okay.
Even off camera, man, you're a genuine guy.
It's very sweet of you.
Which, no, it's just honest of me of like, I'm not trying to like, I mean, I guess you could take it as a compliment, but the thing is, man, like, you make 6 figures off this shit.
Okay.
You're a major influencer. And you don't have this huge ego and you're not an asshole.
No.
You know what I mean?
I 100% do not consider myself a major influencer. I feel like I'm
I agree with you. It's not like, there's bigger levels. There's always a bigger level.
There's always a bigger level. I feel like I'm on this little like D-level niche where, I get recognized, but my name doesn't wield any like sort of mainstream power because my comedy is so dark. It's very difficult for me to get like diaper sponsorships because nobody wants to work with the Scumbag Dad. And when my agent talks to like companies to get sponsors, they're like, so what's his content? He's like, he roasts people. He like roasts them hard. And there's not.
I'm going to be honest. When friends ask me like, who's this guy that you work? I'm like, he's, his name's, what's his name?
Yeah, Scumbag Dad.
Who? And it's like,
it's a mouthful. I may change the name.
No, not the mouthful. It's off-putting of like,
is
he a scumbag?
Yeah, it is.
But it makes you want to pay attention of like, who is he?
It's just annoying because it takes too much time to explain. Like, no, the name Scumbag Dad's meant to be.
I promise he's not an actual scumbag.
It's meant to be ironic. Like, I'm not actually Scumbag Dad. I
he's not actually an asshole. It's just his character.
I actually care about my family very much. And so it's tough to explain that in like a boardroom because they don't want to hear it.
The thing is, I've attended one of your lectures at Drake University. You are respected in these professional capacities, I say, and obviously your orthodontist background, you probably had to get a doctorate for that.
Yeah, I had to go to school for a long time.
Bro, you're smart. You're a very smart and respected guy in both realms, dude.
Thanks. Just doing my best.
That's crazy.
Just doing my best.
But I'm just like, sitting next to you, I'm like, dude, I can't sit next to you, man. I want your brain sometimes, man. Let me give me
cool.
that shit.
One day.
Nah, yeah. Speaking of your scumbag character, though.
Yeah, scumbag character.
You did bring him back.
I did. I brought Scumbag Dad back for 2 episodes, but like they didn't perform all that well because in the Scumbag Dad universe, Scumbag Dad always has to have like an alternative reason for things. And so the first bunch of seasons of Scumbag Dad, it was always like drug dealing and violence and that kind of thing. And I thought, well, what if the secondary reason is he's trying to make TikToks? He's trying to be an influencer, basically. And so, we did those episodes and I was like, I miss the violence. I do miss it. I miss it very, very much. And so I've kind of gone back to my typical shit posting. That's basically all I do these days is I take trends that I don't like or I see creators that I think are disingenuous and I just kind of F with them. I F with their formula. I do their own content in a slightly different way where I say the quiet part out loud. Yeah, quite a few people have blocked me, but that's okay. And
How many have blocked you?
A couple dozen. Like one of the Italian husband accounts blocked me. I thought that was pretty funny.
Really?
Yeah. They
it's all good fun. You're not like
no, it's all good fun. The Italian husband accounts are
whatever.
They're whatever. I'm not really trying to hit them that hard, but most of the kindness influencers have blocked me. I won't say their names because I don't want to give them any publicity, but a lot of kindness influencers have blocked me because I think they get tired of me showing up in their comments and then me saying like one thing.
Yeah, people be tagging you. And it's like, you're not asking them to. They just
I'm not asking them to. They tag me all the time because they're like, what do you think about this? And half the time I'm like, you know what I think about it. I hate it. It's stupid.
It's fucking stupid.
You don't need me to roast them. Why don't you roast them yourself? Trying to argue with people online about this is a very difficult battle because basically, when I try to point out that their favorite kindness influencer is a weird liar, then that affects their emotions. Parasocial relationships are a hell of a thing because the audience member will develop a love and a loyalty to the creator that is not reciprocated at all. So when I insult a creator by parodying them and I try to point out how they're a liar or they're weird, a fan of theirs will be personally insulted. They'll feel attacked. And they'll respond. Identify. They'll respond very strongly. They won't listen to arguments. They will kind of go into a blind rage in my comments. And I think that's really interesting.
That is.
I think one person I made a point and they're like, you know what? Just not going to listen to you. And my point was that lying is bad. I was trying to say like lying is not good if you're doing it for profit.
If you're deceiving people like this.
And the person was like, you know what, don't care. And I'm like, well, what kind of world do you justify lying? Like, what kind of world do you justify that where you love some stranger so much that you'll let them lie to you so that your loyalty stays intact? Yeah. And I think that's one of the essences of a parasocial relationship is the audience develops a fanatic love for that creator that creator can then use to milk them out of money, milk them out of clout. The creator will use them as defense in case they do something shitty or they get canceled. And so the more sociopathic you are as a creator, the easier it is to rally children and deceived people to your defense online.
Yeah.
If you have no talent and you need to use strangers in your content, you need 2 things. You need the narcissism necessary to interrupt people going about their daily lives and shove a camera in their face. You need that, which I think takes a lot. Because normally, if you're a well-balanced individual, you don't want to just shove a camera in someone's face. If you're a well-balanced individual, you don't want to hide a camera and talk to them. And then the second thing you need is a shield. Okay, the shield can come in a wide variety of forms. If you're a kindness influencer, the shield comes in the fact that you're giving away money to the homeless. You want to film the homeless, right? But you can't just shove a camera in their face. You need to say you're giving to them. This way the audience supports you. This way you're not a weird asshole with a camera. You're a charitable person. In a way, the First Amendment auditors are similar. they go out and they film people's stores, waiting for the person to get mad at them. They're counting on them calling the cops. And then when the cops show up, obviously, the First Amendment auditor knows his rights. He's got the upper hand in the situation. He gets to laugh at the person who got angry. But at the end of the day, they say, oh, well, it's to test our rights, Well, how come every video highlight is just man screams at me, crazy Karen screams at me, cop doesn't know his rights? Like you're saying that you're in it to test the rights. But what you're actually doing is you're hiding behind that defense as an excuse to use regular people as actors.
And just argue with people on camera.
Correct. Because you do have the right to film people. And I talked about this on a previous podcast.
Right.
I never say you don't have the right to film people. Of course you have the right. If they're in public, you're on a sidewalk or in a place you're both allowed to be, anybody can bust out a camera and use that footage for anything. The issue is whether or not that's a cool thing to do. There are a lot of immoral things that are legal. Right. Adultery is legal. You can cheat on your wife or lie to your girlfriend. You can do a ton of things that are objectively wrong. You can lie to your friends. I could tell you that my mom's got a chronic illness, and I'd like you to give me $500. And if you give me the $500, I can't be arrested.
Yeah.
Does that make me moral? If say I do that, say I steal $500 from you under false pretenses.
Yeah.
And you post about it online. My friend took $500 from me. What if somebody rolled in and he's like, well, he didn't break the law. You gave him the money legally. That's the kind of defenses that I see when people sort of defend this behavior. They're like, oh, you know what? They're not bad. They did something that was within their rights. I'm like, it's not the same thing. Like the law versus like morality, they don't always have to line up. And I think a lot of the internet audience really doesn't get that. It's an excuse to put people who don't want to be on camera, but more importantly, it's an excuse to get them to act. It's an excuse to get them to behave in a certain way that you couldn't get in acting. You know what I mean? Like having someone actually annoyed with you filming them is way more effective than an actor pretending. Like I've got lots of good actors who I can call on for a scene, but there's nothing quite as good as a person who legitimately wants you away from their business door. That person is going to be excellent content. And so as we progress with this new social media empire, I think there are going to be fewer and fewer people who do something resembling traditional art. I feel like there are going to be fewer and fewer musicians making it. There are going to be fewer and fewer painters. I feel like there are going to be newer and newer ways to exploit the world around you in a legal way that gets people attention and money and hits a lot faster than exploring a craft, learning guitar, like that kind of thing. Because this stuff that the auditors are doing, that the kindness guys are doing, you can put it together a lot faster. I met a couple of guys who made more than 50 videos a week. And the reason they were able to do that is because they just walk up to strangers over and over and over and over. And then they just sort out the ones that are good. If I approach 50 people in a mall with a certain script, odds of me getting somebody reacting very negatively, very positively, someone with an interesting look, I can now use that. That's now in a way, because it's in my camera, because I've recorded it, their appearance, their voice is now my property to sell.
Yeah.
It's now my property to sell, and I can release it on my channels and I can profit off them without them having any claim to what they've done.
When YouTube first started, prank videos were so big on YouTube. Yes. And a big part of prank videos is probably half of them are fake, but then the other half that are real at the time, you're using these people
Correct.
that didn't want to be actors, and you're pranking them and you're getting these reactions out of them, which is it's just messed up.
Correct. The concept of it's just a prank, bro, was the progenitor to all the other things that we now see.
Yeah.
So it's just a prank, bro, worked on YouTube for years and nobody needed to do anything else. But now it's branched off, it's splintered because not everybody's doing pranks. Now they're saying, well, I'm actually just doing kindness. Oh, well, I'm actually just offering people free photo shoots. Oh, well, I'm actually just testing my rights. You know what? There's probably more that are out there that haven't really caught my radar. But at the end of the day, it's about finding people to use and about finding a shield to use so that if people call you an asshole, your fans will defend you with a certain sticking point.
Like you said, with the guise of kindness, the repercussions of never actually like giving that homeless person the money after the camera's off is that person goes hungry still.
Yeah.
And you just exploited them for views and you got richer, but they're still in a disadvantaged situation.
I do think in a lot of the cases they do get the money, but they don't. But the influencer never really accounts for the psychological ramifications of what's happened.
That too.
And there was an influencer I called out recently who made a video, and I directly called him out, and I actually got in touch with the subject, with the person in the video. And this person was embarrassed by what had happened. And they were so embarrassed, they didn't want me to make even a follow-up video to talk about how I was right. And that's one of the big ironies, is that when you prey on the weak, when you prey on the innocent, when you prey on people who don't have clout, you put yourself in a position where they can't hit you back. If I mess with somebody who doesn't have a following online, and I post a video that makes them look like a jerk, well, what are they going to do with me? What are they going to do to me? They don't have a platform. They can't hit me back. Everything I did was legal. They're going to get squashed. So people always come at me in the comments and they say like, well, I don't think that person was complaining about the money they got. You don't hear them complaining because they have no platform to complain. Do you get it? That's why they go after the poor. That's why they go after the sick. That's why they go after the disabled, because in general, those folks don't feel they have the ability to hit them back. I don't really care because I'm a citizen of the internet. I'm used to getting trolled and dealing with hate. You know what I mean? But you shouldn't force somebody else into that world if they don't want to be.
The more disadvantaged that they are, the more it's going to sell and be shocking to look at. Like, if you walk up to someone in just very plain clothes, that's just kind of boring. It's like there's nothing particularly that interesting about it. You walk up to someone that's like very different from what you're used to seeing or like experiencing, that's going to grab you in.
There's a funny story that's related to that. One time, Jimmy Darts was busted raising money for a kid who lied on camera. And it became this big hullabaloo. He interviewed this kid who was like, he was like a kind of good-looking white kid, and he didn't look like sort of a typical homeless person. And the reason is because he was not homeless at the time. He had a job and a wife, and when he was interviewed on camera, he said he was 18 because he was so used to saying that to try and get more money out of people. But it turns out, so Jimmy Darts creates this GoFundMe for the kid and raises like $200,000 in a week. But then people start to find the kid's Facebook. They start to find things he said that were like a little bit dodgy, like not the kind of things you'd want to post.
Yeah.
And then they found out he was actually 21, and they demanded that Jimmy give the money back. They demanded it because the kid lied to him and it was a disingenuous take. Now come with me on this one. They got mad because they thought that their money was going to the wrong place. They wanted to help an innocent 18-year-old struggling, kid. But once they found out he was 21 with a wife and a job, they're like, oh, well, no, screw that kid. Take the money back. And Jimmy, at first, he was going to give the kid the money, but then he eventually relented. What's so interesting about this story is that a lot of kindness fans come at me and they're like, what do you care? We don't care if it's fictional. We don't care if it's made up. We don't care if it's staged. It makes us feel good.
Right.
Well, why didn't that story make you feel good? Why did some people decide to try and stalk the kid's Facebook and try to semi get him canceled? If it's all fictional, what made this Jimmy Dart situation special that now it's bad? I think the kid should have gotten the money, right? If it's all fictional.
Yeah.
And here's the thing I harp on with this lesson is the reason they found him is because he was obviously doing okay, right? But even then, we find this kid who's like said some offensive stuff and they wanted him canceled. How many of these other people do you think lied about who they are, lied about their story? The random veteran they find on the street, the random guy who's like just trying to see his wife and kids. How many of those people do you think were vetted? And the thing is, they don't have a social media presence. For all we know, this random homeless guy could have been a horrible person.
Yeah.
And just because they looked cute in that moment and because Jimmy plays the soft music, now it's okay. Like, kindness fans are not able to differentiate their loyalty to fiction versus reality. Yeah. And the fact that they went after this kid, his name was Lucas. And again, I got in touch with him because I made a video about it and somebody sent me to his social media profile and I wanted to ask him questions because I was super interested. What happened? Did you lie to everybody?
Right.
Did you trick Jimmy? Did Jimmy trick other people? And it shows that the reason why kindness fans don't hear any complaints isn't because complaints don't exist. It's because they don't have a venue to complain about. If you've got no followers and no presence, how are you supposed to hit a guy with like 8 million followers? even if you do, your message is going to get lost in the wind.
It just shows like that they do have a detachment to reality. If you're just walking up to someone with a phone in their face, like,
yes, everybody
you're
knows that's
definitely
rude.
detached from reality if you're doing that.
You've got a perfect point. Everyone knows it's rude to walk up to a stranger and point a phone in their face, which is why they need the shield. They need to say, I'm putting a phone in your face, not
because I'm going to
because I'm a shithead.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not. I'm filming you not because I'm a horrible person. It's because I'm planning on giving you something, or I'm testing my rights.
Yeah.
Or I'm, the interviewers I don't think are that bad. To be fair, I think a lot of the interviewers, they're like, there's my cameraman. Do you want to answer some questions? Like,
well, journalism is a different thing.
Yeah. Like some people ask me, they're like, well, what about the people man on the street interviews? I'm like, a misconception is like, I don't care about filming in public. Like, it's fine. If I'm filming in public, I got a camera and I'm filming my friends or something, or if I'm asking people if they want to do street interviews, like, they're not really strangers. And if you're filming your friend doing something and you capture something in the background that's hilarious and that goes viral, that's also fine, because your intent was not to use that person. It's all about intent. But
and not get a reaction out of them that's negative too.
Exactly. People who argue with me, they say, well, you're getting recorded all the time by security cameras. That's the same thing. It is not the same thing.
Not at all.
The security camera is not pointed at a specific person. The security camera is there to prevent theft. It's not singling you out. It's not playing sad music to make you look sad. It's recording everyone. That is way different than walking around with a camera and trying to look for responses. And I think as we move on in this direction, more people will find more innovative ways to violate people's privacy, get away with it, and profit from it.
Another thing is, like, even if you got some video of like a homeless dude that was okay with it, are they really running it by the editing process by them? Be like, are you okay with like how this looks? Because in an edit, you can make things look crazy.
Sure. I mean, that's a tough one to deal with as well, because a homeless person is generally going to, like, if they're really destitute, they're generally going to accept whatever you can give them. So if you're offering them a sandwich to be on camera, they're more likely to take it than like a random dude at work, because they have fewer options, and that's what makes it exploitative, is that you're going after people who will accept almost any amount of pay for the thing you're doing. It's not to say they're not happy with the sandwich, but it is to say what you've done is exploited them for their labor. And exploitation, that word is commonly sort of like misunderstood. If you take a disproportionate amount of labor or value from someone and you don't give them something similar or fair in return, that is exploitation.
Yeah.
They might be happy with it. You know what I mean? Like, if you've got nothing, someone gives you $50 to do a dance to fill your tank of gas, you may be happy that now you can afford that tank of gas, but you have still been exploited. Whether you're happy with the immediate result or not is irrelevant. Exploitation is sort of like something that's beyond the general feelings that are happening in the situation.
Yeah, I mean, you might be happy with that $20 in that desperate situation. Maybe years down the road, though, that viral video still exists and you can't unclick that button.
And you feel like a dick about it. And that's, again, I think it's going to get worse. I don't think I'm winning this fight. I think that more and more, more and more strangers are going to be filmed without their knowledge because it's just so damn profitable.
Yep. I guess you could call it the Mr. Beast generation of youth now. Are they going to just start thinking that it's normalized and that will just be it? Because now we normalize always taking out a phone, even mid-conversation. That would have been disrespectful as fuck if you did that before. Yeah. But now.
Well, Mr. Beast is essentially Mr. Beast is basically a walking game show. The thing is with Mr. Beast is everybody involved knows the whole scope of the project. It's not like he's lying to people. He's not like he's tricking people. He cured their blindness. He did the job. Like, he paid for it. Good. He didn't. People ask me, they're like, Mr. Beast does the same thing. But if Mr. Beast did the same thing, then he would be walking up to blind people and being like, oh, hey, I don't have $1. Can you give me $1? And they give him $1. He's like, congratulations. Now I'm going to make you see. That's the difference. It's about the intention and the premise. Mr. Beast cured blindness for a bunch of people, but he didn't test them. He didn't make them prove why they should see. He just gave it to them, and that is inherently not dishonest. He's not presenting a false narrative to the audience because there's nothing there's nothing disingenuous about it. There's nothing wrong with putting grateful people on camera. There's nothing wrong with helping people on camera. The problem is in faking the reason why you're doing it or the way that you guys met.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like for Mr. Beast to dig 1,000 wells, he has to coordinate with city officials. He has to hire workers. Like everybody knows it's him. Now, if he went into this town, so like if Mr. Beast, for instance, like stripped himself of all belongings and wandered into a town and is like, I need water, will you help me? And like he staged a child to give him water. And he's like, 'cause you gave me water, I'll give you a well. Now that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Because now he's pretending that he's doing it because they earned it.
Yeah.
And charity is not something that should be earned. Charity is something that should be given to those who are in need, regardless of their circumstances and regardless of whether or not they help you by giving you $1 because you forgot your wallet at home.
See, I'm okay with like how Mr. Beast like seems to run what he's got going on. Do you think that there's more people that could do that playbook? I'm sure there's more that's already tried of just like kind of always just like essentially what he did too was just a lot of reinvesting in himself along the way. But a lot of people trying to do what he did, you have to have really good money management, really good risk management of like.
I think competing with Mr. Beast is very difficult because it's kind of like his shit is so expensive and so over the top that like there's no competition for it. You know what I mean?
Now, but even like, could someone else like from the bottom, like how he eventually like was,
I don't think so.
Come back up again.
I think
on that model.
I think if Mr. Beast ever falls, whatever replaces him will not be even close to his type of content. Right. You know, like culture. I think culture goes in waves. The idea of these over-the-top Mr. Beast videos, I think, will eventually be replaced by something that feels a lot more genuine and less bombastic, which will eventually be replaced by something that feels more bombastic and more insane. Yeah. I think that's sort of like the wave. Like, you know, I watched a couple of Sam Sulek videos, and those videos are not very expensive to produce, but they are cool. He's got a cool personality. They're not edited in a crazy ADD style, and Sam Sulek is like he's rising up in power even without these crazy props. So I think whatever replaces Mr. Beast will be something that feels less insane.
There's a big uptrend in like short form content is going to be king, and everything is gearing like people are just getting their news in these 1 minute retention based content, and that's what it's all turning into. Nobody wants to watch something longer and actually like sit there through something.
No, our attention spans are fried. There's nothing we can do about it. It's basically a done deal. I think it'll get sort of like worse and worse until we physically can't have lower attention spans. I feel like there's a bottom limit to like the human attention span that like maybe 3 or 4 generations will experience, where, you know, something even more chaotic and ADD than TikTok comes about, and like we hit our limit. Does that make sense?
We were talking about how like some people are okay with like, oh, like even if they are like temporarily fooling me, it made a good video, I'm okay with it. I think there are some assholes that are probably like of that opinion, but I think to a large extent too, like the average audience person watching some of those pieces of content, they might not know, like they are getting duped themselves. They don't know that it's actually like kind of fake.
No, they don't know. The audience's social media literacy is like very bad.
It's bad. And that's why it works to fake it.
That's why it works. And that's why they can release staged kindness. That's why, I mean, there are people who will like release dogs and make them dirty just so they can clean them up for social media points. And that is a sociopathic thing to do.
It's ridiculous.
If you harm and abuse an animal just so you can show yourself cleaning it up for internet points, you are a garbage person.
Yep.
You know, and I think that's another good example. Even if the fiction made you feel good, once you're exposed to the reality, how could you even dare say this makes you feel good? You know what I mean?
It will play out into actual reality, whether they like it or not, too. There's implications to, if the faking continues, the world's going to be a worse place.
I feel like what people aren't understanding is that concepts where people allow influencers to lie to them. If you allow an influencer to lie to you just because you like their content, that means you're probably going to let other people lie to you, whether they're other people in business, other people in politics, world affairs, whatever. If you take everything for what it's worth and you're never critical, well, then you won't be critical when people don't have your best interests in mind. You're just too trusting. You're just too dumb. And I think that that's very sad. I think that when you multiply that by millions and billions of people, you get a culture that distrusts each other. You get hate for no reason. You get politicians who see their constituents as beneath them, because why wouldn't they see them as beneath them? When the politicians see everyone arguing about such dumb stuff, they feel like, you know what, this population is here to be exploited. They're all my workers. I don't owe them honesty. I don't owe them anything. They owe me money. They owe me votes. It's a very weird thing. If you live a life where you allow small lies because they feel good, then you are doomed to live a life where you are going to get scammed, because other people are going to lie to you to make you feel good, and they're going to take you for your money, they'll take you for your loyalty, and they'll take you for your emotion. And what sucks is that arguing against this point is very difficult. Being a moderate person is tough.
Yeah.
Because I don't say things that are explosive. I don't say horrible things about women. I don't say horrible things about groups of people. You know what I mean? And so it's
you're not shaking your ass on camera for views and shit.
I'm not particularly cute, you know. But the people who say these controversial things, they get attention from people who believe them and from people who hate them.
Yep.
So they're getting it from both sides. Whereas if somebody's moderate, like, hey, respect people. Hey, maybe you shouldn't violate their privacy. It's just such a lukewarm take. Nobody's rallying behind me like, yeah, we're going to support him because he doesn't film strangers.
Well, and that's the genius, I guess you could call it, behind the fact that even if it's negative reactions, engagement is engagement. They want the negative. Yeah. They don't care if you're saying fuck you. They want that.
It sucks because I think the fact that engagement equals profit is like a way to make society worse. Like, I just did a video where I pretended to buy $10 worth of groceries to make a gourmet meal. Like, the challenge was to make $10 into a gourmet meal. And I just lied about the price. Like, I showed the cash register for a second and it was $30 or something. And I just said it was $9.89. And all the comments, the video's doing great. I'm doing great metrics. All the comments are like, oh, he got it wrong. Math isn't mathing. And I'm like, I can't believe this. Like, you're just proving my experiment right, that just like, even in the real videos, the people don't care if it actually added up to $10. They just like the fantasy that they did it, and they like to see the cooking. They don't care about the math at all. The math is irrelevant. Where I intentionally spent more money on the groceries.
The things that people will do for views.
I know. And every day I feel myself cracking, Nathaniel. Every day I'm like, I know that I'm becoming what I hate every day. I'm becoming the bad guy.
I've seen you draw that line so many times, and like, that's why you're like the Batman of this shit. Like you know how Batman, he sees himself as Batman and not Bruce Wayne. Like, Bruce Wayne is the character for. Do you see yourself as Scumbag Dad or as Brad?
No, I see myself as Brad, to be honest. Okay. Yeah, I see myself as just like a humble family guy who likes to go out in Vegas, who spent his childhood dreaming of being an artist, who failed, who became an orthodontist, and is now sort of trying to, I don't know, make up for lost time.
The revenge arc for the America's Got Talent shit.
It's America's
You're over that though. It's
emotionally, I'm totally over America's Got Talent. But I mean, that was part of the origin story, and now I'm in a good spot. But like, where do we go from here? Is the answer. Like, I can be the Diogenes of TikTok for a while. But eventually I'm going to have to like try to do like a more substantial project that's, I think better.
So the things people will do for views, man, to kind of finish up on that point. I saw the news thing one time. There was this influencer. She was putting litter on the beach and then picking it up for views.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
If we're in this world, like you said, where engagement is the metric that you're going for, whether it's negative or good, then people are going to do some crazy ass shit for views and continue doing it.
Yeah, we can always rely on people to do the wrong thing if it's profitable.
Yeah.
And creating a problem and then fixing it for TikTok is a surefire way to get views. Throwing trash on the beach and then pretending to clean it up is going to work. Abusing an animal and then pretending to help the animal is going to work. It's fucked up. I don't like it.
Your experience getting flagged and banned, we kind of touched on it the past time we sat down, but is that ongoing? Or, I mean, because you did bring the scumbag character again.
My bans, even though I've given up Scumbag Dad, I still get community guidelines violations all the time. About once every 2 weeks, I'll get something taken down or demonetized. And that's just the nature of it. I can't stop myself. I feel like my sense of humor is always going to lean dark. And, there's a decent amount of suicide jokes on my page. And there's nothing, I just think it's so funny. And my wife warns me all the time. She's like, don't don't do that. You're going to get in trouble again. And I'm like, oh, but it's so funny.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like to conform. I feel like I've already conformed a lot, actually. I feel like I've departed way far away from my original intention with my content because I'm so scared of getting banned all the time. I pull my punches all the time on TikTok and YouTube because I'm so scared of them hitting me. And what sucks is I feel like it's very selective. There's a guy named Fiction who does these full-on fights, full-on movie-style fight scenes, and they go crazy. And I do one punch, and it's like, you can't post for 3 days. And I'm like, what is he doing different? Why can I go to this guy's channel and he's doing these fucking Steven Seagal scenes and I can't throw one punch? I don't like it. Whatever. I do think there's a strong human element to the moderation of TikTok and YouTube Shorts, but I can never prove that.
You've had a crazy year since I've just been watching this past year of yours, like kind of since I've known you. And what are some of the bigger names that you've worked with? Like we kind of spoke on it last podcast, but there's new ones.
I met Brandon Rogers recently, and Brandon Rogers,
who's that?
He is a classic, amazing YouTuber who's got like, he does these insane characters. He's got a great sense of humor and just like a great charm to him. He was somebody I looked up to a lot. And so one day I was like, you know what? I'd love to work with this guy. I asked my agent to message his agent. Nice. And then they put us in touch. And when I talked to him, I was like, you probably get hit up all the time. Why'd you decide to work with me? He's like, well, it's because your manager, he said, it's because your agent contacted my manager. And that's like a really professional move.
Hell yeah.
Like I didn't just DM him on Instagram. I was just like, I'll have my people call your people. And so we worked together and now like we're buddies.
Yeah.
And so we've hung out before. He came to my New Year's party and I think that's so cool. So like Brandon Rogers, Stanzi Potenza, who's been one of my friends forever. Like she's still one of the best. Joel Haver is somebody I met recently. He does these really crazy animations and I've only filmed with him once, but he's incredibly funny. So like those folks, I'm doing a project with Pauly Shore, the actor, from classics such as Encino Man and In the Army Now.
Fuck yeah.
So that's cool. So that's, I'm just sort of climbing the ladder.
And of course the Blake collab. And I even saw you with that TikToker who went viral he was skateboarding while listening to that Fleetwood Mac song.
Oh yeah. No, we didn't make any content, but I did a podcast at Pauly Shore's and like Dogface was there.
Okay, and
yeah.
So you didn't make content, but he was there.
Yeah, and we just did a photo and he gave me some of his merchandise. And yeah, Churdley's.
Okay, I'm glad I didn't fuck that up. I was like, did that happen?
No,
all right, that happened.
Yeah, and I hang out with Churdley's a lot. He's also a really funny guy. Like he's a pretty awesome name on like YouTube stuff. He's been at it for a while. I'm very happy with like my new friend group. It's fantastic.
You know some interesting people, man. I mean, I remember one time you even casually mentioned to me, I'm friends with Doja Cat's boyfriend, or somehow that came up.
Yeah, that's correct. I am friends with Doja Cat's boyfriend. Hi, Jeff. Yeah, his name is Jeff.
What's up, Jeff?
So far he hasn't hung out with me since he started dating Doja Cat, which is fine. Right. I get it.
I'm sure he's a busy guy now.
He'd much rather go to the Met Gala than hang out with his friends and go get lunch.
That's funny. So we were talking a little bit about Mr. Beast earlier, and I know before his team had reached out to you. Are there any developments on that?
No. Yeah, the Mr. Beast team canceled our collab. They say it's because they disbanded that team. Maybe that's true. I still think that it's because I make fun of kindness influencers, and somebody probably said like maybe not this guy,
or because he's like, who's the guy crazy enough to like turn us down for his day job, like. Because at first then it wasn't a scheduling thing.
The skit, no, we were scheduling it, but the skit was going to be about doing an evil Mr. Beast, which is like right up my alley. But like, I think maybe they just didn't like the pitches once I started talking about it, because I thought I had some pretty good ideas. But yeah, that's over. I don't think Mr. Beast.
That's all right. I wouldn't say never. You never know.
We'll see.
Are there any rappers that follow you? I don't know. I'm a big rap fan.
I think 24 Karat Golden follows me.
That is cool.
I think that's the only rapper that I'm like mutuals with. But
what are like some of the favorite videos you've made in 2023?
In 2023, some of my favorite videos. One of the favorite videos I made was actually with the Meta glasses, the Facebook Meta glasses. I did an action scene with TX2. The band, where I'm making fun of the trend where people are like looking at the mirror, but the camera's in the glasses. And it's like mostly girls and they sing a cute little song and that's fine. But in my version, it becomes an action scene. And it felt like doing the old Scumbag Dad videos. It was the first time in a long time it felt like an old Scumbag Dad, because Scumbag Dad's videos were essentially like, they became action videos at some point, and it felt the same because we choreographed this like quick gunfight, and it was super fun and super exciting, and it totally flopped. And
the video
but that's fine.
flopped, but I'm gonna be honest. I remember you showed me this video at a Target one time, and the choreography was just executed well. Like, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes you get lucky.
Thank
Like
you.
when we did the John Wick thing, it was choreographed as well, but it just looked like you guys executed that much better on that day. And I was like, wow,
That particular day, it worked out really
good
well.
choreographing in that video.
That's one of the things that I'm like most proud of like, even though it was a flop, it just sort of reminds me that I'm still passionate about doing this kind of stuff.
Of course.
And that made me feel good in that moment.
So now I'm going to pull up a couple of your videos here. We'll put them on screen for viewers that want to see what's going on. But just want to get some of your like quick commentary on a couple of these, like,
Okay.
because some of them have this like meta gag behind them. It's not just the surface level like funniness and goofiness of the videos.
Which one do
There's,
you
like,
want to focus on? Is there
well,
something?
are there any that stand out to you right now? Like, what is this rich man gives a poor girl a choice?
I mean,
Like, what is this-
probably the
what is
giving
this
the note
making
to a
fun at?
stranger one would probably have like a better meta because they're more popular. But so if you watch this video, this starts with a scene of somebody handing somebody a note. Now, there's this guy named Lawrence Choto whose entire gimmick is giving like emotional notes to strangers, and it's completely stupid. But the point is, in one of his videos, he gave a woman a note that said, "What they did to you is not your fault." And she starts to like cry. So like, if this is staged, it's stupid because staging scenes is weak and lame. Now, if it's not staged, then what you might have done is triggered a horrible traumatic memory in this person, and they will start to cry and hate you. So in this video, the idea is the person hands the woman the note, and all of her friends become very upset for her. So they start looking for a camera person because no asshole is just going to hand you a sweet note. They want to gain something out of it. They're definitely filming. So the joke is they find the camera person, assault him, and force him to bring out the guy who handed her the note. And when they do, they grab the guy who handed her the note and they hit him with a fireball bottle. And like they attack him because basically, like, if you're sitting on a bench and someone decides to arbitrarily traumatize you, it's understandable that you may want to physically harm them. So that's like the joke there is that the whole notes from a stranger thing is another one of those like narcissistic sociopathic issues. I want to use you as an actor. I have the narcissism to film you from far away. But why am I doing it? Oh, it's because I want to hand you a nice note. That's the shield. He's not using them as actors. He's spreading kindness, or he's spreading good messages, which is fucking garbage. So anyways, I wanted to make fun of that guy, and so that's what I did.
So let's pull up another one here. Which one piques your interest? I mean, so you said an Italian husband blocked you. That's kind of funny.
I mean, to be honest, I talk about the Italian husbands a lot. Like, they're just like, it's such an obvious
That's been
joke.
a very ongoing one. They always seem to do well,
They always
too.
seem to do well. I do love making fun of the Italian husbands because it seems like a limitless, pool of jokes to just put Italian husbands in extreme or violent situations, or like more depressing situations, and have them react the way the audience wants them to react.
I've definitely seen you do more like even just video game streams here and there, and just kind of testing the waters in different areas.
I
It's cool.
I tried to do some video game streams. Like, it just takes a lot of time, and these days my schedule is just effing crazy. You know, it'd be funny is if you pulled up a podcast. I'm like, well, in this podcast, I'm actually. Well, you see, in this podcast clip, I'm actually criticizing social media and trying to talk about what's wrong with people. Yeah, and in this video, I criticize Barstool
There's
Sports.
way too much scumbag.
No, there's kind of a
going on
funny
right now.
meta in me reviewing my own podcast clips.
Yo,
Yeah, this is me criticizing Barstool. Boo, Barstool. Boo, aggregators.
like AI implications. Just wanted to quickly touch on that because I think that does have implications when it comes to like, instead of getting random actors, now you just have like
I feel like
an AI or something.
I feel like AI, once it gets good enough, will be great at manipulating people.
Yep.
I'm not looking forward to the repercussions of AI. I think once you can put accurate AI people's faces on things, you're going to be able to milk so much money out of people. There's already AI like OnlyFans models. There's already AI influencers. People are giving them money. It's crazy.
AI, man, it's crazy.
AI, man. In conclusion, AI is crazy, man.
AI is crazy, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool. It's crazy to think about too, just the power of the internet and social media in general. Of like,
Sure.
a guy like Donald Trump, he built this brand on being a businessman, and that arguably, whether you like him or not, that helped him become president.
Sure.
And that's not the highest up role in the whole. Still crazy to think about that, like a brand predominantly built through social media helped someone become president.
Yeah. The power of the internet's crazy. Crazy thing. Crazy.
I almost want to ask you what you think of Trump, but we'll let the audience.
We'll talk about that some other time.
We'll talk about that some other time. We don't need to get that. It's clear to me you've got a well thought out content philosophy. Like you've thought about it a lot.
Sure.
Like
yeah.
it's like you draw that line, and sure, sometimes like the thought pops into your head of like, should I just like do my Thanos snap and like do what they do, make tons of more money?
Yeah. One day I feel like if something doesn't alter my life in a great way within the next 2 years, I'm definitely going to snap and I'm going to start using these dark tricks to my own profit.
Yep.
Because I'm going to lose faith in the audience. The issue isn't that I want money. The issue is that as the days go by, I start to realize that the audience is so stupid and they don't listen to reason. And when people like, when grifters like Liver King sort of like don't experience any negative effects for lying to people, I start to think that it's better to be rich than to be right. And I haven't hit that point yet, but, I'm only human. And I do fear the day that I finally take the skills I've amassed and start to turn them towards a dark purpose.
Yeah.
For profit.
It would be an interesting experiment to see you actually try what they do on like a separate TikTok or something. Just see how far it gets. And maybe that money goes to charity or something, but you just try it and see
No,
what
I've already
happens.
thought about that. I've already thought about starting a new account from scratch, but use my, knowledge and skills to be a sociopath and see how far it takes me. And I can't stomach that. I don't want to live in a world where I'm that person. I don't want to look back and say like I hurt people or lied to people. And I don't want my son to ever know that I did that. You know what I mean?
It's just, and I mean, that's the thing too, is like, do you have any worries like with your son, like coming up into this world, like as a dad, like what are some of the things that you worry about?
I feel like I'm worried that my son will grow up in a world where basically nobody actually ever wants to be nice to each other. They all want something from each other. And I don't like the idea that he'll be raised in a world where monetary gain is the only thing he can judge his value by. I feel like that's one of the problems with the developing world. People tend to care more when you have followers, when you have money, when you have material things. And I feel like if you get caught up in that, you run the risk of becoming a generally unhappy person.
Yeah.
It's not even about whether or not he's accepted socially. It's about like when you only judge the quality of life by numbers, such as money and followers, you can't not be fulfilled. You can only be fulfilled by like the love and, graciousness from your community. Yeah. I mean, not only that, but I feel like I don't want him to grow up in a world where he thinks he's less than others if he has less.
There's people killing themselves over social media.
Yeah.
Damn near. Because cyberbullying, whatever you want to call it, all of this stuff. It's just, people like more than ever, people are easily fooled by a video. So we touched on AI. They could get easily fooled by advanced AI video eventually. Yeah. So what happens then? Now nobody even knows what they're viewing is real or fake.
No, now
you have to start finding different ways to get information.
It's all going to be fake. If you could create an AI homeless person to like cry and pretend to receive $1, the first person who does that is going to make $1 billion before they even realize what they're doing.
Because they could make 1,000 of them
because they could just automatically generate people.
Yep.
And then now they don't have to they could just auto generate the whole video. Why even walk outside?
Yeah.
So the first person who does like, AI rendered kindness content is going to make a killing.
It's just super interesting though, man, because we've never experienced that world yet. Like once that genie's out of the bottle, which it arguably is already, it's out of the bottle. You can't put it back in.
It's going to be weird.
How big do you think you would be if you actually just did do that and did it from now on? Like, would you be like So your
Oh,
following's
yeah,
at like
no.
5 million on TikTok, let's say, or almost 6 million. What would it be at? Like,
I think if I chose to be a shithead, I'd be like a major player. I'd probably
how major?
triple,
Like, what?
probably
Define
triple
that.
my follower count on all accounts. Yeah. If
I'd say even more than that, dude. It's like,
I mean, that's a conservative estimate because I mean, essentially all I would do, even if I just did the same tricks that the other assholes did verbatim, I think I'd grow a lot faster. But I just refuse to do it because it's just it's not how I want to live my life.
It's lazy and it's exploitative.
Yeah, I want to be.
Bad.
Eventually, when I die and my son looks at my legacy, I want people to respect Dad as an artistic, creative character. I don't want him to look and say, "Wow, my dad was like a super cringy, weird dude who assaulted strangers for clout." You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty cognizant of that. I don't want to be ashamed to my family or future generations. You know, if I build wealth doing this, I don't want people to say he did it by being an asshole. I want people to say he did it through his hard work and creativity and the people who helped him out.
Have there been any negative like effects from you, I guess, sharing a lot more of yourself online? Like
No.
since you've been more public and there's never been like a stalker, like
Oh, I mean,
or
there's never
anything.
been a
There's
stalker.
gotta been some weirdos
Some
in your
kids have
DMs
found,
and shit.
some like teenagers have found my house and like knocked on my
Oh.
door. Like some like kids have like left. Like, I mean, little kids like found my house and like left me a note like, "Can we collab?" And I put a note on the stoop that's like, "No, we can't. But here's some postcards. Please bring this letter to your parents and tell them have a nice day."
Please
like,
kindly
I'm not
fuck
gonna
off.
I'm not gonna hang out with random children who like know where my house is. But they never came back, so I assumed the postcards were enough. But like, you know, they know where I live.
I've had Kommander Karl on the show. He's a friend
cool.
of ours. Are there any standout moments you've had with him or like making videos with him?
One of the earliest videos I did with Kommander Karl where where the Scumbag Dad kid shoots his hand and blood spurts out of it is like one of my favorite things with Karl. And and the social experiment where Alex draws 1,000 grams of cocaine is one of my favorites, and that was like a couple months ago.
You read any manga? You mentioned before on the show that you liked anime. Have you read manga?
I don't have time to read it. Like the last manga I read was the full version of Akira years and years ago. I mean, I just don't have time to read manga. I have time to lay down with my wife and watch an episode of Jujutsu Kaisen before bed. But like, you know, reading stuff is just not in the schedule.
What other shows you watching right now?
Apart from Jujutsu Kaisen, nothing. I watch animal shows with my son because I want to say the names of animals and be like, "Look, it's a bear."
Do you think you're getting closer to getting your own show someday?
I am starting a podcast with Stanzi Potenza soon. We're working on that.
That's big.
That's a good step in the right direction.
We know about the content creators you make fun of and don't like. What are some that you like? Of course, you like Stanzi and you like Bad Circus. And you like these guys and stuff.
Yeah,
Who else you like?
Lately, I really like Wizards with Guns is really good. They do like really crazy skits. There's a group called That's a Bad Idea. They're like a duo. They're a comedy duo. They've been making some really, really hot bangers lately. So I'm a big fan of theirs. And there's a guy named Rosier, Recider. He does these very dramatic movie style edits and clips with just really high quality camera work.
Do you have any announcements to make?
Stay tuned for the Scumbag Dad and Stanzi Potenza podcast. Stay tuned for the Bad Circus EP, 5 songs of crazy comedy and several music videos. So that is coming up. So follow the Bad Circus on Instagram and like all my shit.